I thought before I read your book that I had a pretty good handle on Dieppe and what it was like. But one of the things that I found so moving and alarming and compelling about your book was the actual description of the raid itself and what was happening to those guys that are landing on the beach. So it's a big raid, and we won't get into all of it. But let's just strip aside all of these discussions we've had, and to take Blue Beach as an example. Could you tell people watching what it's like for these kids that are landing on Blue Beach on that morning?
The intelligence that the planners had from the many air reconnaissance flights that were done beforehand showed that there are a couple, there are at least sort of half a dozen machine guns covering that beach. Anyone who served on the Western Front in the First World War knew what half a dozen machine guns could do. They could hold up a whole battalion, massacre a whole battalion in a matter of minutes, or at least reduce them to absolute inoperability. Nonetheless, for the reasons we discussed before, because of this sort of inexorability that built up into the whole exercise, they do land. Now, I've been in quite a few wars myself. I'm not boasting, but I think I have a slight I've got a slight advantage when telling this story in that I actually went ashore in the Falklands in a landing craft of World War II design. And so I can sort of, it doesn't take much imagination for me to sum up what a part at least of what they must have felt as you're going ashore. You have no idea what's going to happen when that bow door goes down. In my case, thank God, in our case, when I was with 42 Commando, there was no opposition except from the air. I mean, we had air attacks, but we had troops waiting to shoot at us. But it does sort of, you do realize when you're inside one of these things that basically you're providing a sort of frame. Once the bow door goes down, you're just framed there for the machine gunners to just pour their fire into this opening. And that's precisely what happened. So even for a start, the cover of darkness proved to be no protection at all. For one reason or another, they got there a little bit late. By then, a firefight at sea, there was a kind of clash between the German convoy and a flotilla of the invading armada, meant that there'd already been a sort of kerfuffle out to sea, which put people on the alert. So there's no element of surprise at all. So they get there, they're closing the shore in the dawn light. Bullets already clanging, not clanging off the landing craft, they're going straight through them. So people, you're standing there in the third or fourth row, guys around you already kind of crumpling and falling. The landing craft grounds on the gravel, a very heavy, pebbly beach, and immediately there's a torrent of fire. So the men in front of you are just tumbling, groaning, screaming, yelling. You can't go back, you can only go forward. So you're just walking straight into this blizzard of fire. Blue Beach was particularly terrible because it was a very narrow beach, and if you actually got onto the beach, you're then confronted with this enormous sea wall, which is covered completely by these German rapid-firing machine guns. So if you were in the third or fourth row, by the time if you do actually make it off the landing craft, you've just got to see a carpet of bodies, dead, dying, badly wounded, and this terrible cacophony of machine gun fire, shortly to be supplemented by mortar fire. So for the next, if you survive, your experience would have been to spend about 3 hours just lying there, trying to burrow into this penetrable, pebbly beach, while all around you is just this terrible din of battle interspersed with the screams of your wounded comrades. Terrible, terrible experience. And the photographs afterwards, well, I think anyone who's seen them will forget them.